round of applause to the panel. So just to kind of give you the lay of the land and kind of just give you a setup what we're going to do today, Cindy and I will alternate questions between these four sections. Section we're in the first section is on the future of university academic programs. That's the first section. Then we're going to focus on activities and student organizations. And then after that, we're going to talk about industry-university partnerships. And finally, hands-on experiential learning. You know, we're really excited about this discussion today. And with no further ado, the first question is going to be for you, Josh. What do you see as the most critical skills that engineering students need to develop to succeed in a rapidly changing technological landscape?
I love that question. I think that it's tough to answer in the time that we have. I think from my perspective, the most important thing is to be adaptable. I think it's really important that we as engineers who are entering the workforce, as we think about going out and solving real problems, we're faithful to that problem, not to any one discipline. It takes understanding mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, science, social sciences. You need to know the people that you're helping. And so all of that comes to the forefront of what we need in education, in practice, and really just understanding both the theory and the practical application. So it's a little bit different than the conventional siloed approach. We're seeing more of a transition to working at the intersection, really.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Dr. Bush, tell us a bit more about the innovation class you teach and experiential learning.
Sure. I have a class. It's new product development and innovation in biomechanics. It's actually two classes, and we meet together joint with a marketing group. So this is the only class where engineers will actually work with, on teams, folks outside the engineering discipline. And they have to come up with their own product idea, prototype that idea, and then take it out to customers, potential customers, and ask them what they think of it, get their feedback, and then iterate on the device. So it's understanding the market need, the customer experience, how people go about using the device, and then making changes on the engineering side to meet those customer needs and their feedback.
Sounds really interesting. Garth, what programs and what programs, academic experiences have direct impact on the skill development of future graduates?
You know, you got to take the whole thing in concert. So there's not one particular program, not one particular class, and Josh hit it, that adaptability, to be able to take what the experiences they're getting in the classroom and combine them with their life experiences. And so, you know, a lot of that can be transferred not only to, you know, their life in general, but to internships, co-ops, career-related work that they're doing out in industry, and then always taking the two in combination. So what they would learn in Dr. Bush's class would not be necessarily strictly applied exactly as she taught it, but the principles, the ideas, the concepts are what they then have to adapt into the industry and the company that they're with. And the more ability and practice they have to do that, the faster they'll learn and grow into the professionalism.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Would you say you have to practice what you teach, right? That's it. Dr. Bush, do you only work with graduate students, or do you work with undergraduates in the participation of your research?
Actually, I work with both, and my department is mechanical engineering, but I don't just work with mechanical engineers. I have a host of graduate students who are in my lab, engineering, many of them engineering, but I've also had folks who are in physiology, human medicine, and then I have a host of undergraduates also from multiple disciplines, and they partner with the graduate students on a big project, and they might do subsets of it. So I try to involve undergraduates and graduate students at all levels in the research and have them experience the work so they have something to talk about and discuss in their experiential learning piece with companies and industries. They also participate in presentations of their work, so they're learning to communicate engineering principles to folks outside their discipline and showcasing that. I've even had some undergraduates be the lead on journal publications. So.
Oh, that's cool. I think it's nice to have everybody kind of get together and communicate on both levels, undergrad and graduate. Yep.
It also stimulates ideas and innovation. So they come from different areas, different countries, different experiences, and those diversity components make a really rich, innovative environment.
Awesome. Josh, what motivated you to pursue engineering? And how did your background shape your approach to both research and entrepreneurship? You got a great story there. Yeah.
So I got interested in engineering because I grew up in the Metro Detroit area, and I was surrounded by car culture, and I wanted to be the type of person who could work on a vehicle and restore it and get it running and learn kind of everything that went into it. It really taught me the systems engineering approach to looking at the electrical subsystems and the mechanical. My first car was a 55 Chevy. I got to work on that, got to restore that, tinker with that. And I drove that for a little while, and my parents said, that's great, but that's not safe. You need to drive something a little bit newer. Maybe this is something that some of you can relate to. And so I ended up with the 2004 Chevy Impala, and I tried to do the same thing with that I did with my 55 Chevy. I wanted to do the tinkering, the adjustment, the modification, and I couldn't. I needed to get into the computer systems to make that work. And so I went from this very mechanical approach of taking things apart, adjusting the socket wrenches and screwdrivers, into writing software and hacking my own vehicle. And I learned at that time, one, that cars are a great embodiment of engineering and a great embodiment of artistry and craftspersonship, but also that you really needed to be able to understand the intricacies of the systems and how they come together in order to be an effective engineer. So that inspired me to go get my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering instead of what was going to be biomedical engineering first. I started working on cars, developing systems for connected vehicles that let you hack and hot rod and digitally modify your modern vehicle. And that turned into 1, 2, and then later 3 companies.
Whoa, that's great. What are the names of the companies that you worked in the automotive space?
Yeah. The first company was Course Zero Automation. MIT, instead of having different degree programs, they do Course 1, 2, 3. Course 2 was mechanical engineering. Course Zero was not a course that anyone took, so that was the name of the company, because we were kind of blending all of these disciplines together. And that was inertial navigation, like GPS without satellites. Company 2 was Carno. We built an open source connected car platform. And 3 was data driven, which is like Shazam for your vehicle. Listen to it and tell you when it needs maintenance from sound on your phone alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm so glad you shared that. You know, Rick and I were just talking about how important computer science is today in the automotive space. Thanks for sharing that. Cindy?
Yeah, so I'm going to focus on activities and student organizations, but I want to piggyback on something you said. Listening to your car. One of my favorite parts of the show that's no longer on with the car guys, they used to call in and they'd always ask the person calling in with car trouble to imitate the noise the car was making so that they could determine the correct answer to give them. A lot of them were, take it to your mechanic, but I loved listening to that show. What strategies do you use to help students bridge that gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application in your research lab? That's for Josh.
Yeah, we in my lab really try and solve problems that affect real people using technological solutions that haven't been created before. And that sounds a little bit maybe trivializing in some respects, but we try to identify something where if we build a solution and it is effective, it changes the way that people live their lives. One of the things that we aim to do is to build boring better. We want to make things that work and work so well that you don't know that they're there in the first place. And that requires understanding people, understanding the problems that they face. And really, from a tech perspective, being able to predict the present. What are the technologies in a research lab behind a closed door that are available to someone that could be available to you, and combining those in ways? So that problem first thinking is really the mindset for the group. Build something with the application and the people.
You must have a lot of fun picking up things that go wrong and then trying to solve the problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Garth, what activities or programs have been developed to create engagement and networking opportunities in the mobility and automotive industry?
Yeah, so one of the programs that we're funded by the state of Michigan is called Michigan Scholars. It's an evolving program that the state has indicated, hey, we've got these opportunities growing in the EV mobility, in semiconductor, in advanced manufacturing, and we need to make sure that the talent that we're developing in state are aware of the opportunities and given the opportunity to stay in state. So the Michigan Scholar Program is built in the idea to help the students identify and get to know the opportunities in the emerging markets. And then the key is to connect them with these opportunities. So we've done a couple things individualized with Michigan State, where we've hosted mixers and connection opportunities. I think the key with the students, though, is sometimes they get so concerned about performing well at a career event or a career fair. And so what we've done is done some more lighthearted things. We've gone to Top Golf and hit golf balls with executives. We've driven around go-karts and drove again with individuals and representatives from companies. And then the big thing we've done with the Engineering Society of Detroit is for the last 7 years now, we've had something we call Link in the D. And we involve all the universities in the state of Michigan and invite all the engineering students at the end of their summer to come down and meet up. DT Energy has invited us into their site. And so all of the students from the engineering, computer science, from all the different schools within the state come together one last time in Detroit before heading back to campus and connect and network with all the great employers that are in around the area. And so that's turned out to be a wonderful event in terms of connection, networking, and opportunities for our students, as well as the students across the state.
Have you seen the numbers of graduating students that are moving on, staying? We've always been such a hub for innovation and mobility.
So I'll say this. Students are like all of us. They like familiar things, and all choices being equal, would love to stay within striking distance of mom and dad. Maybe not in the same neighborhood, but within striking distance, right? And as long as we, as a state, provide the opportunities and the awareness of the opportunities, all things being equal, what we've seen over time is the students, maybe not initially, but eventually will land in the area. And so when sometimes I'll take the meat on a little bit on this one, sometimes when students leave the state, it's because either the opportunity hasn't been presented to them or they're not from the state originally. And so they will go home. I also look at the whole region as a key concept. So here at Michigan State in the College of Engineering, roughly 58%, 59% of our students stay within state, but 75% stay within the Great Lakes region, always touching that lake and that area and having an ample opportunity to come home for a weekend or holiday.
Visiting your student organizations and the groups we've seen, I hear the Michigan State students are quite sought after from the engineering program.
They absolutely are. I mean, we're a top-notch program, not only in the state, but in the nation. And so we'll not only have, the big three come up from Detroit. I'm still old enough to call them the big three. But folks come from, California and Texas, Arizona, and the coasts, looking for the talent that we harvest here at the university.
That's great. Another question for Josh here. How do you engage your students in real-world problem solving? And can you share an example of a recent project that made a significant impact?
I can share a project that we're working on right now, actually, which is we are extending this data-driven concept for acoustic diagnostics to help farmers. And so we have students, including one of them who's here in the audience right now, who's going and interviewing farmers and people working in agriculture, talking to them about what equipment do you use? What do you engage with on a daily basis? When does it fail? When it fails, what happens to you, to the equipment, to your business? Capturing all, and just working to understand what the real opportunity is there. So as much as we can, we engage not only with individual beneficiaries, but with entire groups of people that we can help in problem solving. If there are opportunities for corporate partnership, we take that up. If there are individuals who have come to us and expressed that there's a problem that they're facing, that they need some help with, we work with them. And if they don't come to us, we seek them out if we think that there's an opportunity, but we validate it, we test that hypothesis, we make sure that the opportunity is real before we start building. Because we can often trick ourselves into thinking we know what's best for someone else, and building a solution that's very elegant, very creative, but it doesn't do the job that it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's so true. Solving problems that don't exist instead of the problems that do.
Right.
That's wonderful. Keegan, what advice would you give to prospective engineering students, especially those in the Honors College, about making the most of their academic and professional opportunities here at MSU?
Yeah, absolutely. If I could give one piece of advice to someone in the engineering college, who's someone just coming to MSU, I would say really look for those opportunities that are outside of just the classroom. Join clubs, do those type of things. For me personally, that is one thing I definitely wish I did more. I unfortunately spent a lot of my time working part-time job, but I really wish I could have joined the clubs and sought more of those out of the classroom opportunities, because I know you can gather a lot of important skills that you can't get solely from a classroom.
Yeah, we've had the opportunity to speak to many associations and teams, and it seemed very powerful in their lives. What did you personally have time to involve yourself in?
My sophomore year, and a little bit of my junior year, I attended Spartan Cybersecurity Club for a little bit. And due to other things, I unfortunately didn't get to attend as much. But there's so many clubs out there. There's more than I can even name, that there's so much to offer, very interesting, and they do a lot of cool things.
And from what I've heard from students, it's the sense of community that comes with joining those teams and those clubs that really helps them with their everyday trudge through.
Yeah, of course. Like you just said, you can meet a lot of great people through these clubs and classrooms. So it is a great opportunity.
Okay, thank you. John?
Right. Now we're going to move on to industry-university partnerships. Aha, Rick, we're coming to you. Rick, why is it important for you to engage with the university and its students? Why is that important?
Well, it's really a matter of trying to find the best talent, right? There's not as many engineers in any region. So not only do we engage with the universities, but also high schools and STEM initiatives to make the piece of the pie bigger, no matter if it's for Astemo and Hitachi or for another company. But then when it comes to really coming to the universities, it's really getting the new talent, the new ideas, energy into the organization. I mean, when we have our interns there for a summer, it's a whole new environment. The energy is just totally different, right? So a lot of our people enjoy mentoring new people. So it's a great talent pipeline for us. And for us, starting people early and getting them out of school, we can kind of develop into what we would call the Astemo model. So you can understand what we're doing. You move forward faster than you would moving from company to company, and really kind of get engaged with the organization and all the things that can benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things I would just comment on, how many places are in the United States where Astemo actually resides in the United States?
Well, the U.S., we have 10 basic locations. We have just a similar number in Mexico and then Canada.
Yeah. The reason I bring that up is you just don't have to stay in one place, but we want you to stay in Michigan. So just know that. Let's see, Dr. Bush, have you worked with any industry partnerships on mobility?
I have. We've actually done a few of them. We did one with Case Tractors. We most recently have done one with Ford, and we're in collaborations with MTA Flint and Adastec on a current and upcoming one. But I'm going to talk about one around persons with disabilities in the mobility area. We partnered with Ford on that to understand the needs of users who have assistive devices. So wheelchair users, scooter users, those who might have a walker or crutches. And you look about the autonomous vehicles and the possibilities that they could bring to their transportation needs. It's really amazing. But as Josh said, you have to understand the user and the challenges they have. So we actually created some real life scenarios for what an autonomous vehicle might do and compared it to public transportation that they're currently using, or even some Uber, Lyft type cars will accommodate individuals with assistive devices. And our partnership there led to a really interesting project where we looked at the needs of individuals and why they would pick things or certain regions to be picked up or dropped off at. And it boils down to their feeling of safety and security and not wanting to stop traffic flow or get in the way. That if there's a whole bunch of criteria that they picked. And some ask, well, are they open to the use of autonomous vehicles? Very much so. They're very much interested in autonomous vehicles because they can solve a lot of their challenges. So many times they might have to wait 3 hours to be picked up by a transportation unit, or they have to arrange things days in advance. So you can imagine, someone says, hey, I'm having a movie night here, can you come on over? And they might not be able to get there because they haven't prearranged for transportation, but they had an autonomous vehicle that they could call up and it could come get them. They could go any time of day or night to their friend's house. So
yeah, it gives you your independence back.
Yeah. And you might think, well, it's only for assistive device users, but look at the older adult community as well. At some point, individuals are no longer able to drive, and that is a huge loss of independence for them. So again, they too are very open to using the autonomous vehicle or some form of self-driving vehicle for them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Reid. Rick, why are internships important to students and to Astemo?
Well, they're important because they're a talent pipeline, like I said before. And, it's a mutual beneficial relationship, right? So all of our internships are project-based. So we sit down with the managers, they say, okay, what are they going to work on? What's the benefit to the organization? We do want to get something out of it. We believe in goodwill, but we also want to make sure it's a meaningful experience for the student that's coming in. So we also ask them, so what are we going to get accomplished? What's the project look like? And then what is the student going to get out of it at the end of the day? And we do an end of the term presentation to our executive teams. And I'll tell you, one of the things, they walk away impressed every minute. Every time they see one, they walk away impressed. And we're going to talk about Keegan's a little bit later. But it's really about creativity of how they approach the different jobs. I mean, it's really exciting to look at a project that looks kind of okay on paper, but then at the end of the day, they've just gone far above and beyond what we really expected. And that learning, and then having people coach and work with those people is a benefit to the organization as well, because a lot of our lead engineers are the people who facilitate our internship programs, the ones that actually work with them and mentor them on a daily basis. And eventually they're going to be managers, and it really leads them. It benefits us to be able to have them do those type of things, work with people through problem, and teach the students, because it helps in their career long term. So it's a relationship that really starts from helping home grow our people and a talent pipeline, but it also has huge benefits for the organization and our culture as well.
It's a big deal, Rick. I remember when I started off in the Stone Age with internships, it was get us some coffee. That's what that was. But these are real world opportunities that actually help them assemble the education and the industry stuff. Thanks, Rick. Keegan, how did your internship at Astemo reflect the importance of the university-industry partnerships? And how can MSU continue fostering these relationships?
Yeah, of course. I think that my internship with Astemo went really well. It really highlighted the university industry because, as Josh mentioned earlier, you can only learn so much in a classroom. And internships are a great experience because they really allow you to bridge the gap and take what you learn in the classroom and actually apply it to like a real life experience. Mm-hmm. So, and to the second part of your question, how can MSU continue fostering these relationships? I think Michigan State does a great job at outreach. They really let their students know about all these opportunities out there through what Garth mentioned earlier, these career fairs, or just simpler things as they hold little like lunch events or meetings in the engineering building. It really allows these students to meet with these employers, which can later lead to these great relationships with these partnerships, these companies.
That's awesome, awesome. Garth, can you discuss any current programs, partnerships that work with industry to help develop student attraction?
Yeah, so, I'm an old-time co-op guy. And so although some believe cooperative education is dead, it's not. It's just in a different form in a different way. Everything that Rick and Keegan and everybody's talking about, it's really partnership in education. That's the formation of cooperative education. We're all partners. The students are a partner. The employer is a partner. The school, what we're doing academically, is a partner. And when we can all listen to each other and formulate the plan for Keegan to move forward in his career. I see Shane out there, for Shane to move forward in his career. That's the key. And so when we look at the programs that we do and the partnerships that we have, Astemo Hitachi is one of them. And so it's key that Sam and Rick are always conversing with us, what they're looking for, what they're doing. We go and visit the students at the work site, see what they're doing so that we can better understand the skill sets that our students need and have and make that matching process. There are some employers that, call me every day and say, we just want your best and brightest for graduation. What doesn't work anymore? They're all best and brightest. But you've got to have those formational programs. And so Rick's talking about it through the internship co-op. You can call it Garth Summer Fun Day. I don't care. But the idea that they're getting a paid work experience that's career-related, supervised, evaluated, and really helps formulate what they're going to be as an engineer going forward. And they come back and they challenge Josh and Tammy in the classroom of what they saw at the workplace and what's now being taught in the academic setting. And it really forces all of us to up our game and be better in terms of what we're providing the students and everybody out there in industry.
Oh, that's cool. That communication is extremely key.
Yeah, so John, I just as a follow-up to that, because I think there was a lot of good points about preparation for people coming in and understanding the needs of the employers. And I think MSU and a lot of our other partners do a really good job of preparing the student to come in and understand teamwork, So it's not just going and sit in front of a computer. You've got to be able to do problem solving. So they prepare the student to come in to be successful. So they can come in and make a meaningful impact for us, right, as well, and then get the experience above the classroom that they normally wouldn't have. So they can add that to their portfolio of skills. But they're prepared to do that. The things that we're getting taught academically, it's impressive. I mean, when the students come in and what they can do with, their education and apply within the organization, it's really phenomenal. I mean, I'm so impressed with the young people that we see and that we train because of that, because we're doing a good job preparing them before they even hit us. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Oh, that's huge.
And
I want to jump on that, John, for just one more minute and just echo what Rick said in the idea that, again, we're connected with these partner employers. And so when they see something bad that's going on with us, to share that with us and give us that input, and vice versa. When we see, something that Hitachi's not doing exactly right, that partnership and that open communication makes it all better for all of us. And so that's really key in the partnership programs that we do here. And like Rick said, many of the schools in state do.
That's huge. Well, you're lucky to be here, and they're lucky to have you too. But that's just awesome. Let's see. Last question, Rick. Can you tell us about the transition for a new grad to Astemo?
Yeah. So we look, like I said, the internship program is kind of a talent pool, right? We're looking at people. We're having projects that we want to get done, but we want people to come see us, and we want to see you, and they said. Develop that long-term relationship. So we have a lot of students that will come back, summer after summer. Some choose other experiences. So we don't land in a full-time job, every one of our interns. But we do about 25%, which is not too bad. And we transition them into a new grad program. And so most of our new grads, we have positions that are not identified for just a department, it's a discipline. And we'll bring them in, and we will move them through rotations into different either facilities, locations, programs. So like a software person, who we do most of that all in Farmington Hills, might still go to a facility for a while where they're making the boards, and learn a little bit more about the electrical engineering side of it. One of the things that was mentioned earlier is, we don't have true software, computer, mechanical engineers. They work as a team. And so you really have to know most of the disciplines, right? You can be an expert in one, but getting people kind of in tune to all that, how that whole system works, it's kind of, we do a good job in the universities doing that, but then we try to echo our development. When we bring people in, we just don't throw them or pigeonhole them into an area. You know, we rotate them for the first couple of years into different ones, not just based on company need, by the way. We do try to do it based on the employees' desires too, right? So if somebody comes in and they've got an electrical background and they're starting to work in, you know, our mass airflows or something like that, they could always move to another area if their interests peaked there, you know, and it fit in with some of our, you know, our long-term strategy. So we listen to the students to be able to get them the best mix as possible, or the new grads, I should say.
Well, that's great, because growth. I mean, you're not just putting somebody in one spot and just leaving them to rot. You're trying to get, you know, I mean,
it's really an investment. It's an investment, and we're going to take that and we're going to start to work that asset to find out where it fits best for us, right? Because, you know, I think one time I saw them, 50% of people that come out of school don't really go into their major, right? Maybe that's an off number, right? Well, people that will come out in an engineering program or going to an employer don't always end up, that first job isn't really where they want to be. If I can provide the opportunity for them to go someplace else within the organization in a different discipline or a different department, then they're going to stay with me. They don't have to go somewhere else to get that, right? So rounding that out, understanding the needs of our students and our new graduates, I think is, you know, imperative to be able to build a long-term relationship and a steady flow of employees for us.
Oh, that's huge.
Hitachi Astemo. Mobility. We are contributing towards a life of mobility and delight, and to realize a sustainable society. To enhance the joy of mobility and quality of life for all, Hitachi Astemo employees are creating a new future of mobility everywhere around the world today. Empowering mobility.
What is the best point of contact for both employers and universities to work together to develop the necessary skill sets of graduates and the employees for the future?
Well, I already talked to you about being a co-op guy, and so I'm going to go there again. You know, back in the day, the state ran what is still arguably the best cooperative education program out there, the old General Motors Institute, GMI, right?
I have relatives who went there.
Absolutely. And so, you know, when you look at today's experiences, and I know students don't always want to hear this, but the idea of having not only multiple experiences, but deeper experiences within organizations. And so, you know, I think, you know, part of the future is looking at the past. And the idea that not only, and Rick pointed out some of it, but I'll take it even farther. When a student goes there, to kind of map out and say, okay, where do we want Keegan to be 3 years from now? All right, let's now put a play in place where he'll get this experience or that experience and this experience. Yes, it has to be based on some of the employer need. I get that part. They've got to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But the idea that we're producing an engineer that we want down the road is key here. And so the idea of going, this is what students don't want to hear, going back to the same employer, not to the same job, but going back to the employer for a deeper, stronger experience. When they jump to a new employer, new industry, yes, they're getting the brightness of that, but they're starting as the new kid on the block again. When they go back for a second or third experience at Astemo, Hitachi, or wherever, they already a known quantity. Let's give them an opportunity to develop in another area and another area. See maybe some supervisory experience of supervising a younger talent at the work site. So the amount that we can develop cooperative education, experiential education, our summer fun time, whatever you want to call it, in terms of developing these students as key employees down the road and building that connection with the company and with the industry. I think that's what we've all forgotten over our race to get out in, you know, a quicker time. We've forgotten that build that we want in terms of that future asset. And all these guys are assets, not only to the companies, but to themselves in terms of what they have moving forward. Because Rick's right, they're not all going to stay with the same company. We're seeing that all the time. I was a maverick when I left GM after 5 years. These guys can't even expect to spend a first experience. Yeah, they're going to, 18 months down the road, ready for something else. We've got to challenge them. And I think the cooperative education model works in that sense.
I find it interesting that you press that point so hard, because it's such an investment for the company, and yet they may move on, but you're still willing to put the investment into them.
I'll tell you my pet peeve these days. Okay. Companies that, I'm sorry if I offend you.
No.
So
as long as I can have a rebuttal.
Companies that want to do rotational programs, they're all talking about rotational programs. And so what these guys are sold is the idea that they're going to go out and work for anywhere from a year to 3 years and rotate every 6 months to a cool entity, a cool department, or whatever. You are paying them graduate dollars to do this. Why are you doing it when they're an undergrad? Why aren't you putting them rotationally there as an undergrad when you're paying $20, $25, $30 an hour, pennies on the dollar, to what you're going to pay them as a full-fledged degreed engineer? And then when they hit the finish line as a full degreed engineer, they'll already have that exposure and hit the ground running faster, with the idea of, again, Rick loves all you, but you need to make his company money. So it's a faster speed to that finish line of money. So I really cringe when I hear students talk about rotational programs, where I believe that if companies would reinvest in a much more sophisticated internship / co-op, call it whatever you want, model, that would get them to the finish line faster and a better asset out the door.
So let me just add to that. Well, we got to talk. Yeah. Okay. Because I agree with that 100%. And it's really a coordination effort and a partnership that we really need to foster and discuss, because, our rotational program, when we're looking at it, it's not new for us, but the rotation part is. And we're not, doing it like some of the old models where, they're going to a bunch of different departments, and it's all pretty meaningful toward a career development for them. But I will say that, moving to get those experiences at another company is one of the things that, we have realized over the years. So, we've always had a pretty good turnover. Rate at Hitachi, we have a pretty good culture. So we did lose some people, and sometimes it was surprising who we lost, right? So very few people, by the way, move for money. I'm just telling you that right now. I'll do exit interviews. It's not about money. we do a good job of benchmarking and paying competitive to start with, right? But normally it's because, A, I'm bored in the job I'm doing, so because you're not developing me and you're not listening to me, that I'm bored, right? So they're going for another opportunity to do something that's more meaningful to them, because they have a passion, in what their work, right? So if I'm not providing those opportunities, that's one. And the other one is development, so they're tied together, of course, but the development is another thing. So if I don't do that, you're going to go someplace else long-term to go get that experience or do that other cool thing you want to do. And, I probably have it there for you. We just have to have that dialogue.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's all about communication.
Well, it is. It's about understanding and doing career path development with your employees. So when they are wanting to move to do something else, they're going to do it within Astemo, not do it down the street for another competitor, right? So I think it's always about development. And that's one of the reasons, I'm sorry, I'm going off a little here, but why I'm passionate about talent management, and especially our relationships with the universities, is because we can develop that whole process. That pipeline starts very early, and then we can take it up all the way through a person's senior part of their career, right? We don't start after you're done or stop when you're done in 2 years. The idea is to continue to develop those skills for a long-term relationship, right? And so that's why most of our employees have been there 15, 20 years, because we've been able to do that. So, but it starts with the partnership and understanding and getting the right talent to start with. And that's where these partnerships are really important for us.
It sounds like the success or satisfaction rate in the employee goes up if you do it right.
Oh, absolutely.
You might be the first employer that I've heard career path development in like 20 years.
So thank you.
And it
That's a good thing.
here.
Yeah, I'm thinking it. Yeah, I might be backwards on the co-op, but I'm okay on the development side.
Yeah.
But I'm open-minded.
Whatever.
So we'll talk.
Okay, well, this ties right in. Josh, why is hands-on learning so crucial for engineering students, and how do you incorporate that into your curriculum?
So I would say we do a really good job of teaching theory at Michigan State University. We do a good job teaching theory at most universities, but theory is necessary but not sufficient. You really need to know where the rubber meets the road, how to actually turn your equations, the pen on paper, your mathematical models into something that people can use at the end of the day. And to me, that requires this kind of mind and hand approach where you do the modeling, you build it, you test it, you learn from the testing, you come back, you iterate, you redevelop. In classes that I've taught here at MSU, I've had students come up with business plans and then go build that business and then build a mobile app to build that concept out and test it. And they learn as much outside of the classroom in that way as they do inside the classroom. So they take the experience home, they learn. In the self-driving cars class that I teach, advanced topics in automated vehicles, students learn the theory, but then they implement software, they test it, they validate it, they see what works and what doesn't. You can learn more testing something and finding the 10 ways it breaks in an hour than you can learn in 10 hours of lecture. So I think it's really important to integrate those concepts together and make that part and parcel of the educational content delivery, really.
Makes it real. Mm-hmm. Great. Dr. Bush, in your work around mobility and persons with disabilities, was there anything that you came upon that surprised you?
Yeah, there were a few things. In particular, the work I talked about where we set up the real life scenarios. I think both on the student front, so the undergraduates who were involved, as well as the participants who were assistive device users, we were surprised. So you can read articles and journal papers and think you're well versed and have a good idea of some of the topics, but hearing the stories from the folks who experienced transportation issues was really surprising. So for example, we heard someone who their assistive device was a wheelchair, was visiting a city and needed a ride, and there was an accessible Uber on their app, and they called the accessible Uber. The Uber driver came up, saw that they were in a wheelchair, and continued on going. And so there are numerous stories. Another one that sticks in mind was that they had a ride pickup. It was pouring rain. There was no shelter, and they had to wait 2 hours in the rain before their transportation showed up. So when we talk about the need for improved transportation, it benefits everyone, but in particular, it can benefit an individual who has visual impairments or an older adult. And there, like we said, we have story after story after story, but those were a couple that stuck out in my mind, were really surprising.
So it's how it affects their sense of worth and self that really gets messed up when things don't go right.
Absolutely. Not only that, but their social engagements, working and engaging with other people, their ability to get excellent health care. So what happens if you have an emergency and how do you get to the hospital, or how do you have someone, you have to call a friend to have them come pick you up because it's an immediate need. Now, some cities are instilling a immediate pickup and drop off for hospital visits like that, or you have to call the ambulance. Yeah, those were some really surprising stories that individuals told us.
Oh, thanks for that.
So I just want to kind of piggyback on that, because I think we talked about a little bit before, but one of the cool things about mobility and engineering and technology now is the focus on the social good that it brings to people, right? So when you can go out and design a car, that's cool, right? But when you can go out and design a car that can help somebody who's disabled, like autonomous driving, that's impactful, that's purposeful, right? And that's kind of where, this whole mobility area is helping us take some of those things that used to be, think about how unfriendly cars were to kids and things, originally, right? So we've got the basic safety stuff now done, right? But now we have to take and look at for all the citizens and all people and how we can take those technologies and advance it. So it was mentioned about starting to understand the problem before you start coming up with solutions.
Absolutely.
So that's a great approach. So I just think that it's a kind of a really cool time to be in a creative space and mobility, especially because it's starting to really have a social impact on things. So thank you for what you do, but I think that's one.
We have such an aging society too that are going to need these things just to get around. Keegan, what hands-on experiences or projects at MSU have helped you the most in applying engineering concepts to real-world challenges during your internship with this guy?
Yeah, I think what Josh said earlier, I 100% agree with. I feel like theory can only take you so far, but some of the classes that I've learned the most from are some of my design engineering classes or some of my electronic labs or circuit labs. And that's the reason for that is because you're in these classes and a lot of times you're designing things and you need to be able to adapt. You can plan to do something, you can try it out, and if it doesn't work, you got to adapt and do something else. You got to be able to communicate with your team. All these skills are, in my opinion, equally as important as theory. And those are the skills that really allowed me to succeed in my internship, I believe.
I heard a student tell me today that you have to embrace failure and move forward.
I would 100% agree with that.
Another question for you. How do the Michigan State University engineering programs equip students with those skills necessary to succeed in both internships and full-time roles?
I would piggyback basically off my previous answer. It's just that failure is okay. The College of Engineering at Michigan State, I believe, has a great balance between these lecture-based classes and these laboratory classes, which really allow you to learn all these different skills and apply them to industry type of positions.
Okay, thanks.
I'd even add, so when you're talking about innovation, you definitely want to fail and you want to fail fast because you learn so quickly about the design and the product and what works and what doesn't work.
For sure.
Yeah, so we're going to talk.
So failure's an okay thing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Keegan's, and not part of this whole thing. We're going to do it as part of the podcast. But just let me tell you, during the presentation, very many iterations of experimenting with some technology to be able to work in roundabouts with LiDAR technology to identify pedestrians. But anyways, but a lot of times trying to figure out how to make that data work and how many trial and error you had, that was one of the impressive things, is that you thought through the process and the problems and then adjusted certain things to be able to make it work, right? So if it weren't for those experiments where you learned that that wasn't working, you would have never got to a place that was really meaningful results and for us as a company to be able to move forward with some of that ADAS type of safety technology for pedestrians in circles, in traffic circuits. But
so it sounds like pride isn't very useful to engineers. You just let it go and move on.
No, the most successful baseball player only hits the ball, once every 3 times. So, a lot of trial and error.
That's true.
Well, the last question I have is for Rick. So why does Astemo invest in younger talent?
I hate to keep saying, but it's a talent pipeline. I mean, it is really our future. I would rather develop talent than to get talent from somebody else. Many people that are already in their career that are moving from company to company, even though money isn't a factor, sometimes they're not being challenged and developed. Like I said, we have too, but they want more money. So they're more expensive to go out and get engineers to hire, right, that are out there being mercenaries in a way. It's better to grow your own talent. Okay, they move quicker, they develop faster because they're in one system, and once you're doing that, it's easier to expand your responsibility in your career when you're in a place, as long as it continues to challenge you. And I will say, one thing about modern work, we have a kind of a flexible work environment, things like that, but, be someplace that challenges you, live your career with passion and we try to create that. I mean, I love my job 80% of the time, right? I got to deal with the 20%. We all do, right? But I think, going to a company where they're going to develop you and makes you feel purposeful because you're doing meaningful work. I mean, that would be advice I would give people, and that we can be part of that as an organization and grow that talent and then be able to give people that type of career where it's meaningful and they go home at night and have a family and feel good about that balance that they have. That's important. And so why the relationships and working with interns and then new hires is because you can start that development early. and you can kind of get people's passion and actually be more productive faster with those people as well. They develop much quicker because they develop under one umbrella, you know, and one vision of their career.
Well, thank all of you for your answers.
Absolutely. Let's give a round of applause for that. Thank you, guys.